Hey guys, it's Christina of CraftyPaws. I wanted to come on and do a quick card tutorial. And I'm going to be using this super cute Stampin' Up! Stamp set called Love Bandit that I picked up from a D-stash from Christy, who's twins for me too. I think this little raccoon Love Bandit is so stinking cute. I'm going to have him standing on top of this tree stump. So I'm going to show you a quick masking technique, because this little sentiment is sitting under this raccoon and I don't want it to show up there. I want him to stand on this tree stump. And I'm also going to be trying to use this Stamp-A-Majig properly so I can get a clean stamping image on this watercolor paper, which has a bit of texture on it. So if you don't get a perfect stamp the first time, if you use a Stamp-A-Majig, you can repeat the stamping until you get the coverage that you want. I'm going to be using VersaFine ink rather than my normal Memento Tuxedo black ink, because I'm planning to color up the image with a little bit of distress marker watercoloring. So let's get started. And by the way, the Stamp-A-Majig was a gift from new crafter Bev. Stamping it first on this clear plastic sheet that comes with the Stamp-A-Majig, and I just butt that right up against the corner. Stamp it on the clear plastic, and then I'm going to be moving that plastic onto where I want the image stamped on my card front. So I think I want it there. I'm going to be removing that. So to do the masking off of that sentiment, what I'm going to do is put a little bit of Scotch tape right over the area that I don't want stamped out. Then I will ink up the stamp. And now I'm going to remove that Scotch tape so that now there's no ink on the sentiment, and I can stamp it exactly where I want to. And I'm holding down the stamp onto the paper to try and give it the best shot of giving a clean image. Now it didn't take fully, so I'm going to be doing the masking again. Re-ink. Remove that tape. And that's a pretty clean image. Now I'm going to be making a mask. So I'm using a Post-it note, and I'm going to stamp a second time here, mostly on the sticky part, and I will be fussy cutting this out to be able to put this little mask on top of this guy so that I can stamp the tree trunk so that it looks like he's standing on top of it. Now I don't have to worry about the top part of this for the fussy cutting of the mask, just the part that where he's standing. Place this on top of this little guy. Then I will now be able to ink up this little tree stump and stamp right over it so that he's hopefully standing right there at the top of this tree trunk. I'm going to stamp this again onto this plastic sheet. Then I can maneuver this right where I want it, underneath the little raccoon. Move my Stamp-A-Majig right up against it, and then I'm going to stamp it again just because the top ridge didn't come out as cleanly as I'd like. So I'm going to re-ink. And remove it. Isn't that cute? It looks like he's standing on top of the stump. I'm going to do some really simple watercoloring by using the Tim Distress markers and coloring in, especially around the edges of the image, and then blending it out with my Pentel water brush. The lightest color I started with is Antique Linen, and then I added some tea dye, and then to make it a little browner or warmer, I added Vintage Photo. For the tree trunk, I started with Vintage Photo and then added shadows with Gathered Twig. And the inside of the heart there, I'm coloring up with Black Soot. if you just build up the color a little bit at a time, you will get a richer color, even if you're blending out the color with your water brush or a paintbrush with just some water. After this, I am heating it so that I can totally heat set it, make sure this is completely dry before I do the next step, which is playing with the Ken Oliver color bursts. So I'm going all the way around the image with my water brush and trying to be really careful so that I don't go over the stamped image. And I'm just putting in little squeezes of that color burst. In the lower portion there, I'm using Terra Verte, which is a green, and it has some yellows in it, as you can see. And I'm using the Post-it note there just to kind of block the spraying of the water. And I think that activating that color burst powder with a spray is just amazing. It is so much fun. It's kind of a surprise what's going to come because the granules in the color burst are a mixture of colors. And I know some people might not like the surprise, but I think this is so exciting. You do have to be careful not to get big clumps of the powder because it is so concentrated. It might be too dark, but you can see I'm going into the detailed areas with my water brush and then spraying with my spray bottle to get that fabulous mix of colors from those little color granules. And that blue above is indigo, and it's got a light teal in it, some purples in it. Ooh, and you can see there, I'm really panicking here because there was a big squeeze and more of that powder came out than I expected it to, but it's actually not bad because you can pick that up with your paintbrush or water brush and move it to another area like I did in the upper right or in the bottom left in the video. And this is, I can't tell you how fun this is. I just love the color combination. It kind of reminds me of like tie-dye looks. And I know it's a little bit intense for this little raccoon image, but I just love it. And I'm gonna definitely be playing more with these color bursts. For the little heart that the bandit or raccoon is holding, I used festive berries just to color in the background before I put the cranberry stickles over top. I used the largest MFT Dynamics stitched rectangle die, and I'm layering the back with double-sided foam adhesive, and I cut it into strips so that I don't waste too much of this double-sided foam. And then I decided for the base of the card, I wanted to add a little strip of extra color in that big white expanse of a card base. And so I just took a little scrap of pattern paper that I had in my stash that seemed to go perfectly with the colors from the color burst. Now for the sentiment, I took a sentiment from the stamp set that says, "You stole my heart," and I stamped it on a piece of vellum, and I'm heat embossing it with some clear embossing powder and my heat tool. And I'm heating it both on the front and the back so it doesn't warp too much. And I cut it, I hand cut it into a little banner. Then I die cut this little heart. It's the smallest in the Diamond Dies nesting heart die set. And I colored the base of the white cardstock with the same festive berries, and I'm layering the top with the cranberry stickles so that the top embellishment where I am attaching the vellum banner with the sentiment is going to mirror the little heart that the raccoon is holding. And I will let that dry, and then when I come back, I'm going to adhere that right here in this corner and have the vellum banner underneath it so that you can read the sentiment there that says, "You stole my heart." I hope you enjoyed this process video as much as I enjoyed playing with all these crafty yummies. If you did, please give this video a thumbs up. Thanks so much for watching, and I hope you're having a wonderful crafty day.